Pollination. Yes. The transfer of pollen grains on the stigma of a pistil of a flower is called pollination. Right? So these are the pollen grains, various of them lying over there over the stigma, and each one of them will produce a pollen tube. But only one pollen tube will be able to reach down through the style up to the ovary. That is the egg cell, the ovum. The outer structure is the ovule, whereas the yellow portion that you see here is the egg, that is the ovum. Another name for this is, any guesses? The female gamete. Okay, so this is how the pollen tube is produced. This pink colored structure that you see is the pollen tube, which will carry the male gamete to the female gamete. The two will fuse together. That process is called fertilization. It occurs in the female part of the plant, of the flower, and that is how the tiny plant will come to reside here somewhere. The embryo will be formed here somewhere. I will have to draw the pollen grain for you. Let us remember how to draw it. This is the outer one, exine. Now I am drawing the intine layer, and let us also draw the germ pores. It is from the germ pores that a pollen tube will come out. Now, if you look at this pollen grain, it will divide finally and produce two cells. It will form a two-cell structure. It will divide and give rise to two cells. The tube cell, whereas the other cell is called the generative cell. Now I have drawn a tube over here. This pipe-like structure, tube-like structure is the pollen tube, which has come out from one of the germ pores, any of the four. From them it comes out. Tell me, which of the two will produce the pollen tube? Tube cell or generative cell? It is the tube cell, yes, which will give rise to the pollen tube. And what is this yellow colored lying over here? This yellow structure is actually the, yes, generative cell. The generative cell also enters into the pollen tube. It enters into the pollen tube along with the whole of the tube cell. It also joins. Generative cell, which I have drawn in yellow, it will change. It divides into two parts, two cells. These two are now referred to as the male gametes, two male gametes produced by the generative cell. By mitosis, they have been produced by division. The tube-like structure, the pollen tube, enters and stretches on, moves on. Only one of the pollen grain can make a long tube. The rest of the pollen grains finally degenerate. They cannot produce long enough of the pollen tubes. Only one succeeds, and it will be always carrying along with its tube two male gametes. Remember, you have been learning this earlier. Two male gametes are found in the pollen tube, in the tip, at the tip, in the front pollen tube. Now, one of the male gametes of the two will fuse, will join with the female gamete for fertilization. I have been drawing it like this, if you remember, in the diagram of a flower also. Now what are these? I have been telling you these are the ovules and the ovum inside, right? But is the egg already lying over here? No, the ovum or the egg is produced very late. In the mature ovule, you will find the egg lying. Before that, how it looks like, let us draw. In the very beginning, now suppose we are talking of mango, say. I am drawing only one ovule and only one egg, that is ovum. Such a thing happens, suppose in mango, say. There will be only one ovule, that is you find only one seed produced in mango, right? In that case, what happens is, we can also draw like this. This is the actual diagram of that ovule, single ovule. Suppose we make a single ovule. So this will be the shape of that ovule. It is connected with the ovary wall with a stalk-like structure called funiculus. Right? Can you see this stalk-like structure? Yes. This is the funiculus. And this whole is an ovule. Right? So is the egg lying over here right now? No. The egg is not here right now. We will come to know when I teach you right now how the egg exactly is produced, beta. This is the ovule. Like this, and then here, right? Now, all these structures that you find over here, there are cells and cells lying over here, mass of cells. All this is called nucellus. This tissue, this mass of cells is nucellus lying over here. Can you see any egg? No, there is no egg right now. What happens now? This nucellus finally will give rise to the egg. But how exactly? Again, this is the nucellus, but only one cell somewhere has changed into megaspore mother cell. It acts like megaspore mother cell. One of the cells of the nucellus will act like this. And how is it? It is again 2n in nature. It is only the 2n cell lying over here. It multiplied and gave rise to 4 cells. So what kind of division it could have been where 4 have been produced? 4 daughter cells? Yes, we are talking of meiosis. Meiosis has occurred and 4 daughter cells are produced, which are again all 1n in nature now, haploid in nature. And strange thing is that out of these, the 3 will die, they will degenerate, and only the one of the daughter cells will only survive. Only one survives, rest all perish, and this is called the megaspore. Now, megaspore. This is monosporic development because only one spore is produced, the rest 3 die. A tiny female gametophyte which has started growing, right? And we will come to know the details of this structure now, this single cell which is 1n in nature, and what happens to this. Here we had drawn the single cell which had grown the megaspore, right? Due to meiosis, it is 1n. What happens to this is now that it will give rise to 2 nuclei. These 2 nuclei will divide into 4 nuclei. These 4 nuclei will give rise to 8 nuclei in all by divisions, by simple divisions. These are the nuclei lying over here. Let us count them. How many? In all, 8 finally. Can you see this final diagram? 8 nuclei have been produced by a single megaspore. I told you there are 8 nuclei which have been formed, and they will gather some cytoplasm, and the topmost 3, top of the 3 that these top 3 are lying, they are called 3 antipodal cells. Of these 8 nuclei, I am telling you how they are named. The upper 3 are called antipodal cells. These central ones are called polar nuclei, 2 polar nuclei. Polar cells, polar nuclei, right? And the last ones here, lying here, are the 2 synergids. While the yellow one, which I have drawn in a yellow color, is the egg cell, that is the ovum which has been formed.